a special guest. His name is Dr. Efraín Ochoa. Welcome to the show,
Thank you,
Dr.
Yuridia.
Ochoa. ¿Cómo
Thank you.
está?
Muy bien.
And he is from, he's a chiropractor from the Good Life Chiropractor.
Good Life
Yes,
Chiropractic,
Good Life
yes.
Chiropractor. Thank you. Remember, everybody, don't forget to put your comments. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to share this and make the comments. We're gonna have the doctor live, and he's gonna answer all your questions. And well, let's tell them a little bit about yourself. Tell us who you are.
Well, my name is Efrain Ochoa. I am a chiropractor here in Omaha. I I'm from California, and I
Okay.
moved to Nebraska back in 2004.
Okay.
I started practicing chiropractic in Lincoln in 2004, and then I ended up opening a second office here in Omaha,
Okay.
and eventually I ended up closing the one in Lincoln due to the commute. I did it for
Okay.
5 years, and I thought that was a little bit too much, especially with the weather. The weather here could be a little bit drastic, so I decided to stay with my office here in Omaha. And ever since then, I've been here in Omaha, and I am very grateful for the response of the people, the way they have embraced chiropractic in this particular city.
Okay. And your office is located on
My office is located in South Omaha.
South
South
Omaha.
Omaha. We are located on 24th Street and M Street, right in the cross street there.
Okay, right on the heart of South
Yeah,
Omaha, I would say,
South
right?
Omaha, yes.
Okay. You know, there's a lot of questions sometimes. Even today, this morning, when I was at the beauty salon, they were asking me, well, what is a chiropractor? Like, I'm not really familiar with the chiropractor, is especially with the Latino community. Like, that's a new concept for some of us.
Yes.
Because we're used to the traditional bone doctor, I will say in English, but in Spanish, we'll say sobador.
Sobadores,
Sobador.
bone settlers.
So can you, for some of us, for those audience that are watching, can you explain to them what's a chiropractor?
Yeah, a chiropractor is basically it's a profession here in the United States, and a lot of times in different parts of the world, it's not common, it's not known. In Mexico, it is starting to be a little bit more common, but a chiropractor, what it does essentially is that it treats the spine, and not only the spine, other extremities. So anything that has to do with alignments of your spine. The thought behind chiropractic is that your body sometimes misaligns. There are vertebrae in your spine that require, they sometimes fixate, and sometimes they require alignment or correction. So what a chiropractor does is it corrects those misalignments in your spine, but it also at the same time deals with the extremities. So for example, your hands, shoulders, arms, knees, anything like that. The chiropractor they will address it. So it just depends on the chiropractic office that you go to. But it's a very neat profession because it allows you to work with the patient using your hands.
That's all you use?
Also
Your
your
hands?
hands. There are instruments that are used in chiropractic profession. Some doctors choose to,
Okay.
and simply because there are some people that just don't like the sound of the manipulation. When I say sound of the manipulation, it's a release when you adjust a segment in your spine. There's a release, a sound, and especially in the neck. And there are doctors or patients sometimes that don't like the sound simply because it's too close to the ear. Sometimes it sounds a little bit
And
different.
when you talk about the sound, it's like when the bones are cracking?
Yeah, it's
or
when like when
what?
you
Or
pop
flash,
or you
what?
crack your knuckles, for example. That's the sound.
Okay.
And sometimes you use instruments to adjust, which, for example, activators or some type of instrument that it doesn't release. It does perform a manipulation to the joint, but it doesn't release the sound. So for those people that don't like to hear the sound,
Yes.
there's an option, and that's through an instrument.
So if I want you to adjust my neck, let's just say, but because it's closer to my ears, right? I'll probably
Yes.
hear, but that sound will scare me.
Yes.
What options do you have for that?
Well, sometimes if patients, for example, in my office when they come in and they tell me, Doc, would you not adjust my neck? Yeah, we understand that, and we do not perform any manipulation to the neck. We also address the muscle component of that.
Okay.
Not only the adjustment or the sound, but also the correction of the muscles if there's a misalignment also in one of the muscles. Or, for instance, when there's a muscle spasm. we also address that. So even if the patient does not want to hear a sound, a pop sound in their neck, there's other ways we can work around it without doing that.
That's nice because it can be intimidating, right? That you are in pain, you don't know nothing about the doctor, and you just don't want anyone to touch you.
Yes, and in our office we try to be explain to the patient what we're gonna do, especially if the patient hasn't been to our office before.
Uh-huh.
We like to kind of give them a heads up what they're gonna experience, what's chiropractic.
Mhm.
The typical worry that patients often have is it gonna hurt?
Yes.
That's their concern. So we try to be gentle with them and explain to them, no, this is what you're going to experience. Maybe the first visit, once they experience the first session,
Mhm.
they know exactly what to expect and they realize, well, it doesn't hurt at all.
Mhm. One of the questions that we had is that um, what type of what different type of pain can you help? Give us an example.
Well, there's different types of pains that a patient can experience. For
The most
example,
common ones that they come to your office.
most common ones are going to be soft tissue and also sciatic pain, for example, nerve pain. For example, sciatic pain is very common in our office.
Mhm.
This is when patients are having some symptoms down the leg. For example, they have some back pain, but at the same time, they feel that maybe there's some numbness, maybe there's some sharpness, or into the extremities, in this case, the leg. It's very common for my patients to come to the office with those particular symptoms. The
Mhm.
other symptoms that they often come with is when they are involved in trauma, car accidents, for instance.
Yes.
That's another type of patient that comes into the office. Or sports injury, Latinos. I work with a lot of Latinos in this community, South
Mhm.
Omaha community, and they like sports. They play sports. They
Mhm.
like to. So oftentimes they get sports injuries, and they are looking for someone or somewhere to go. And we definitely work with our patients in any type of sports injuries.
I had a person asking me like he works at the construction and he said that he pulled some like he lifted something
Sure.
but he lifted the wrong way and then he said that he felt something.
Yes.
He didn't think he broke anything but he did feel something. So he's wearing like one of those
Braces.
braces, but he said that when he's outside in the cold he feels a lot of pain.
Yes.
And then he said, well, yeah, I want to go to a chiropractor, but I don't have insurance. So how much does it cost? Or does it have like a payment plan? They have an assumption. Well, I don't want to go because it's too expensive.
Yes, yes, it is common for our patients to. For some of them, they do call the office and find out how much it costs. Some patients they believe that it could be expensive. It just depends on the injury that the patient is having. But a patient that usually comes into the office, it's gonna be around $77 more or less if the patient is self-pay.
Okay.
If the patient requires a little bit more of treatment, if it's a condition that we need to address and it requires a little bit more of treatments, we also discuss that. And we also offer some payment plans too with the patient, so
Okay.
that way it becomes convenient for them and in a way to help them in the fast way we can. And in this particular case, we want them to just come to the office sometimes if they are hurting, not to
Okay.
stop attending the office just simply because they don't have the funds or in fear that it's too
So
expensive.
they can just call, or they can just well, obviously call, make an appointment,
Yes.
so they can, that you'll be there, and but the fund should not be a reason for them not to contact you.
Yes,
Okay.
especially we work with the patients. Sometimes we try to meet patients' need. We understand that in this circumstances it could be challenging, but we try to work with the patients the best
Mhm.
we can.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. But the other question we probably answered that, it said, does it hurts to get those corrections done? That's a
Uh,
really big question.
it doesn't hurt really.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes when the patient is apprehended or the patient is not relaxed,
Mhm.
they are fighting you. A good patients of those are kids. For example, kids they don't know what to expect, but when they first experience a chiropractic adjustment,
Mhm.
they engage in laughter. They just laugh and laugh and laugh. It's a way of, oh, that feel weird. Oh, that feel good. That's the typical response that kids get. It doesn't hurt, but once they experience the first one, most of them enjoy it. They really enjoy it. Now, if the patient is in a lot of pain,
Yes.
then there's apprehension from the patient.
Mhm.
The body is fighting me, and then they don't know what to expect, so the patient might not be relaxed. If that is the case, we also try to work with the patient and slowly introduce that alignment.
And sometimes, I know I have an experience that if I pull a muscle or something, I'm scared to move because it move a little bit and it's so painful. And so, what do you do with that situation? You just wait, or like
But
the
there's
patient will tell you, "Don't do that because it hurts." Or how does it work?
yes, we have the saying, no pain, no gain. Oftentimes, the first signs that you get is pain. When a
Okay.
patient comes in, I mean, the first that's our sensor. Sensors,
Mhm.
our body has sensors in our system that allows us to identify the pain, and pain
Okay.
is one of them. So through pain, the patient tells you when something is hurt, when something is inflamed, when there's something wrong.
Uh huh.
So pain is our first indicator. The first thing that shows up in an injury is going to be pain.
The first, the first thing that you're gonna feel
Or
is the pain, and
experience are going to be,
that's a
yeah,
sign to say something is wrong over
something is
here.
wrong. Yeah, and I need to have it checked out.
Okay.
The last thing that's going to go is going to be the pain. So
Okay.
even if
Wow.
you're improving your function, for example, a patient that can't bend down at the waist,
Uh huh.
he might have limitations moving and also pain. So we work with the pain. We also work with the function. We try
Okay.
to get that patient to restore his function and get him back to where it needs to be, especially if they have missed work.
Yes.
We don't want patients to miss work
Mhm.
because a lot of them, that could be their only income. They have a family to support.
Yeah.
And so we try to address that right away and try to help the patient as much as we can on the first visit,
Mhm.
uh, whether it's decreasing the pain level or improving the function. Whatever limitation the patient is having, we try
Mhm.
to address it as well.
Now that you talk about work, there's a lot of a lot of clients, I will say, that they get injured at work,
Yes.
right? A lot of them, especially, like, what are the most common ones like that come to your office?
Well,
Construction.
there's a lot of people in South Omaha that work in construction. A lot of them.
Okay.
And people that work in construction, they do strenuous work. It could
Okay.
be from lifting. It could be a repetitive line of work. For example, you have the drywall, people that work in drywall, people
Yes.
that work in roofing, installing roof, people that work, I mean, just framing. There's, I mean,
And
they're
now
so
with the
different.
winter, not only they're working like they're lifting, but it's also isn't like it's shocking. Like when they're working, they get hot, and then the cold air. Is
Well,
there something in there or no?
that also involves the typical
Mhm.
cultural beliefs that we have. For example, in
Mhm.
Latinos, since I work with Latinos and I'm Latino, I do understand the culture.
Yes.
And for example, the Hispanics, they don't like to mix heat
Yes.
and cold.
Yes.
And they associate oftentimes if they are working and they're hot, meaning they've been working,
Mhm.
they don't even want to wash their hands with cold water
Yes.
because they
Because
associate it
that's
with
what
arthritis.
urban the culture, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's a
oh,
culture
it's
thing.
hot, so don't put any cold, right?
Yes.
Because you don't want to mix. Is that? Is,
Now that's a myth.
that's a myth.
That's a cultural myth that
Okay.
runs. For instance, too, I get my other myth that I see often in the office is after I work on them, they ask me, "Doc,
Mhm.
can I take a shower?"
Yes.
And I tell them, "Yes. Make sure you use shampoo, conditioner, and put some cologne on so you smell good for your wife or
Uh
your husband."
huh. For
So
your loved
yeah,
one, yeah.
it's very important. It doesn't make sense because through that tradition sobador type of
Yes.
mentality,
Mhm.
oftentimes patients believe that they cannot take a shower for maybe a day or 2 day or even a
Yes.
week
Yes. Yes.
simply
Yes.
because they had a massage. And that
Yeah.
is straight out fiction. That's a
Okay.
myth that it runs in our community.
So please take a
Take a
shower.
shower, especially if you go to the chiropractor. We want you to smell nice and
You want
fresh.
them to take a shower before or after, or it doesn't matter.
Well, we prefer when they come in and smelling good. But
Okay,
oftentimes
that's a
they don't
good
come
tip.
in when it's smelling good. They come right off work, so we
So
understand.
it doesn't hurt to take a shower before going to the
It doesn't
chiropractor.
hurt. It benefits the doctor
It
by far.
benefits the doctor, and so when you smell good, you work better. That's a good point. We have questions from the audience. If we let's see, watch the live. We also have people live watching us. So if you want to ask a question to the doctor, we're here to answer the questions, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, sorry, some technical problems sometimes over here. Another question. Do you only adjust the back?
No, we also address extremities, for example, knees, ankles, shoulders. Shoulders are very common, knees, sports injuries, that type of deal. We do also address extremities, hands, wrists. Yeah,
Okay.
anything that is involved, we address that.
Okay, another question. Can you talk about more about the personalized treatment you perform for the people that have been in accidents.
Yes, it all is going to depend on the injuries. What is it that? What's the mechanism of injury? Why is that patient coming to our office? Is
Okay.
it because he woke up suddenly with a tweaked neck? I
Mhm.
can't move my neck. I woke up like this. Well, you know that that's not related to trauma. Versus someone that just comes into the office complaining of neck pain, but has been involved in a car accident. There are two different injuries. One of them is going to require certain specific type of treatment, maybe a little bit prolonged, where the other one, he could be done right in within 1 or 2 sessions. So it definitely going to depend on the mechanism of injury, the type of injury. There's other factors involved too. For example, if the patient is very active, or if the patient is not very active, sedentary type of people that they don't do very much, where others are very active and they participate in routines of exercises and all that. So, and their response is going to vary also from the patient itself.
I want to talk about two specific cases which they're very common to the law offices. For
Mhm.
instance, if you were a victim of accident, so that can be personal injury.
Yes.
Most times, attorneys refer them to chiropractor or physical therapist. Do you take those type of cases
Yes,
too?
we do. Our office deals with a lot of cases of personal injuries,
Okay.
motor vehicle accidents type of deal. Yes, we do.
You do? Because
Mhm.
that's important to know. And just to clarify that when they go for a personal injury case, they don't have to pick out of their pocket. So,
Yes, if there has been the report, if the accident has been reported to the insurance already, and
okay.
both parties have exchanged information, and eventually there's a claim number involved. All you have to do is just bring the claim number, and the insurance company will take care of that. The patient doesn't pay anything off out of pocket.
Okay.
If there is an attorney involved,
Mhm.
then we will go ahead and use a lien and
Mhm.
work with the attorneys as well. So again, it doesn't nothing comes out of the patient's pocket.
Yeah, I just want to because a lot of time, especially if you're immigrant, if you're new to this country, you don't know that that's your right.
Yes.
So it's important to know that you can select the chiropractor that you want. It's your choice, it's your law, and then that the insurance will pay for it, so they don't have to worry about. I don't want them to stop going to get medical treatment because of the money when the insurance and the attorneys are involved.
Yes.
The other ones that we hear a lot of comments are for workers' compensation. A lot of people don't want to make a report when they get injured at work
Yes.
because they're afraid that they're going to lose their job, or even if when they get hurt, they report it. The company most time they give them their own doctors,
Yes.
but I want the people to know that you have a choice, especially here in Nebraska. We have a law that you can select your own medical treatment, right?
Yes.
So
Uh,
even if the company give you, you can say thank you, but I would like to go to, my preferred medical doctor.
yes. And there's going to be just some policies, but under the law of Nebraska, you have the option of choosing your own doctor, physician, if you're involved in a in workers' comp. Oftentimes, patients don't hear that, they don't know that,
Hmm.
and they are dependent on the employer.
Yes.
And the employer, they're waiting for them to be sent somewhere, and oftentimes the employer could take time or doesn't.
Hmm.
If, a lot of things, what happens, a lot of times, what happens with some of my patients that I've seen is that even if they get injured, they don't report it.
Yes.
The longer you stay from reporting it, that's is going to take longer for you. So there is a protocol that the workers or employees have to follow, and that is they have to make a report. If you get injured at work, you
Hmm.
report it to your employer. The employer must file a report, and they're just going to file through their insurance, the workers' comp insurance, not the typical, health insurance, personal
It's
insurance.
not your insurance. It's
Exactly,
the
it's
company's
the company's
insurance that is
insurance.
there to protect them.
Yes.
Um, but that doesn't mean that they're going to get fired because they reported that they got injured.
Well, that's one of the fears and a lot of reasons
A
why
lot
a
of
lot of
the.
cases patients they don't report that in fear that they're going to lose their employee or work. That is very typical. It's very common to hear that. I did not report that because I don't want to lose it, or simply because they just love their work or whatever other circumstances is happening around there. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's prevented them from reporting it. And in the end, the patient is the only one that gets injured.
And have you seen patients where that necessarily didn't get injured on one particular day? It's like accumulation.
Yes,
Of
repetitive type of trauma. We call those repetitive line of trauma. It's a repetitive. It's when the patient involves in a particular line of work that is repetitive over the course of time, and that creates micro trauma initially. But over a course of time or period of time, it's gonna create trauma, and
Give
that's
me
when
an example of that so I can.
it's very common. For example, people that work in meat packing plants or people that are constantly just lifting, doing one type of maneuver, lifting constantly the same, and it's not necessarily the same weight, but it's a rapid movement they have to perform. Maybe there's a production line and they have to go fast enough to beat the production line. So that's going to create trauma, a wear and tear eventually in the particular patient. If that involves the wrist, the same thing. Eventually that wrist is going to wear out. It's going to start producing some pain, and the patient is going to complain. And if the patient doesn't change or address it, it's going to force that specific area and exposing it to more injury.
Okay. And how can you help them?
Well, number one thing is that we'll address the inflammation. Sometimes the patient needs a little bit of rest too. Meaning, if that line of work is producing that inflammation, is causing that joint or the area of complaint to increase and before it becomes too late, because there will be a point in time where there could be some breakdown during the tissue. That could be tears that involves something more serious. But if you're earlier, you catch it earlier on, and you maintain the patient away from that activity, allow that patient to recover and to heal. It's very beneficial. If the patient does not listen to the body, and even if they're experiencing pain, they don't go see a doctor or report it to the employer, they're going to continue working, and that continued work is going to force that joint to force itself, exposing it to more injury.
So what would you recommend for a person that is in that type of situation? Make a report to the employer and tell them, this job is creating this, but they're not doctors. They're not going to listen to them. And they only know that information because you explained that to them.
Yes.
Do you give them a doctor's note to back up their statement?
In cases where the patient has reported to maybe their supervisor or their superiors, and they're not paying attention to, and the patient continues to work, but it continues to produce pain, call us. Come to the office. We'll take care of them. We write a letter if we need to. We'll give them some days off if we need to, or some modification or restrictions, and that way they can take that to the employer, and the employer can address that, so they can see that too, that this patient has come to a chiropractic already, or to a medical doctor, or whatever doctor they're going to prefer to, and there's a letter that substantiates what they're complaining.
So, for instance, if a client, the client does that, but they don't want to be laid off, they can move them to a different position with limitations.
Under workers' restrictions, we can also ask the patient not to perform a specific job if that is what's causing the injury.
Oh, that's good. That's good that you'll be able to help that, because a lot of times they don't want to complain because they're afraid to lose their job. But that doesn't mean that they have to stop working. It's just that maybe they can do a different position, right?
There are some companies that allow that.
Some of them?
Some of them.
And some
it just depends on the policy of each employer. I've seen cases where in my office where patients will, even we put them on restrictions, work restrictions, they'll send them home. They'll ask them, just come back when you're feeling better. But it just depends on the policy. But most employers, you're willing to put the patient on light duty or restriction within a short period of time.
Because sometimes the body just needs to rest, right?
Yes, body needs a little bit of break. Yep.
They just need to rest and then recover, and then they're back.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
So that's a very good. Another question that we have: are there any risks to this type of treatment, the treatment that you do?
The biggest side effect from a chiropractic is basically feeling a little sore, if that is the case.
Sore?
A little bit of soreness. It's a very conservative treatment, which means that your body, you might experience a little soreness in the event. That's as far as it goes. But it's almost like when you work out. Same thing. You go out, you work out, the next day there's lactic acid buildup, you're a little sore, especially if you have not done that activity for quite some time. Sure, you're going to be a little sore, similar to that.
Now, my understanding, you're saying chiropractor, in your practice, let's just focus on you, not general. You use your hand. Do you use anything else like ice or like any equipment?
No equipment. As far as the adjustment, we use mostly our hands to manipulate the spine or whatever area we need to manipulate. We also work with machines, for example, electrical stimulation. We also work with ice if we need to. If we see an area that is inflamed, we try
Okay.
to bring it down through the use of ice. We also use heat if we have muscle spasms. Yes, we do. And we also work with the muscles, the soft tissue that is involved, tendons, the function, through the use of therapeutic massage. They're not really massage, but they're more therapeutic, meaning we identify the muscle that performs a specific area or function, and if that function is being altered by the or muscles, we address those muscles. Your body has a very interesting way of when something hurts, turning it off, and that means, and that's when the patient cannot perform the same function, and we try to turn it back on, whatever area it is that muscle is performing. We try to deal with the functional component as well.
Now, how does this work? Someone it's in pain and they go to do you do first like a consultation
Yes.
or do they need to go more than once? Or how does it work? Like for
Well,
instance, if I have lower back pain and I'm not a doctor, but I'm assuming because I spent a lot of time sitting or
yes.
whatever. I don't know. All I know, I don't know how I got it, but all I know is that I have lower back pain and I'm calling your office. What is it that you're going to do first? You do like a evaluation, you
Yes.
ask me question. Do I need to bring something? Do I need to make notes before I go to you
Yeah.
or
Well, basically, during the first visit, we're going to do a consultation and examination. During the
okay.
consultation, I'm going to ask the patient several questions. Try to
Mhm.
identify the mechanism of injury. What is it that the patient is having, whether it's low back pain, neck pain. And then the next question is going to be like, when did this start? How did this happen? When did you first notice it? Were you involved in a particular injury, like a trauma, car accident, slip
Mhm.
and falls, sports injuries, anything like that? So we try to get a comprehension of the situation. What happened to that particular patient? Why is
Mhm.
it that he's having or she's having this particular symptoms? Try to put everything. Now, here's the other thing that we also like to ask my patients, and that's, what is it that you do for a living?
Uh-huh.
And it plays a big role in the diagnosis as well, because if a patient sits most of the time,
Mhm.
for example, versus someone that is constantly lifting 30, 40, 50 pounds during the
Uh-huh.
day, there's going to be a reason why one of them is having this particular reaction versus the other one. Well, if you're sitting down, you might not be lifting, but there's some pressure on your low back. Maybe there's something we need to address. If
Mhm.
you're lifting something throughout the day, of course, there's going to be some injury as well.
Have you ever had like one of those experience? I remember you mentioned one that they came with so much pain, and in only one section, they were able to walk. It was that. Is that what it
Yes.
is, or
Yes,
what was?
there's several cases like that.
Mhm.
Chiropractic has seen that. Every chiropractor have seen cases where, the human part of it just kind of melts us down, and that is,
Mhm.
I think humans, we have an ability to help people, meaning we
Mhm.
like to help people. There's something that intrinsic inside of us that we like to help people, and when you're able to do that, that is very rewarding. Maybe not monetarily at that time, but the satisfaction that you get by helping other, it's
Mhm.
very, very gratifying. In this particular case, we have had cases. A lady could not walk.
Mhm.
The husband brought her in her arms to the office. She was unable to walk. She was unable to lay down. She was suffering from low back pain, and
She
immediately
was
after
suffering from lower back pain, and she
low back
couldn't
pain,
walk
and she
because
couldn't
of
walk.
that.
Yeah.
How did she hurt herself?
I don't remember specifically how she hurt herself,
Mhm.
but I think her state came in a time where her low back was locked completely.
Okay.
And what that means is basically your body does not allow you to move. You're
Okay.
locked. Every motion that you do, whether bending down or standing up, you are unable to. Almost like the weight of your spine is falling in the areas that it should not be. And
Mhm.
its guard is locked. You just can't move yourself. So in this particular case, the husband came to the rescue and brought her in her arms. And
Nice husband was carrying. You see, taking notes of that. So the husband literally was carrying her.
literally carrying to the treatment room.
Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
and slowly settled in on the table, so we can work on. So a patient that is in this particular amount of pain
Yes.
cannot move.
Yes.
Well, you can see the beauty of chiropractic, where within 20, 30 minutes of the first consultation, the
Yes.
examination and treatment combined, the patient is able to stand up, walk. And when I remember, the first thing that she said was, "Doc, can I go to the restroom? I've been having this since the morning, it's 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I
Wow.
have not
Yeah.
been
Those.
able to go to the restroom. Can I walk to the restroom?" I said, "Absolutely."
So she can walk to the restroom
She
now.
was able to
See,
walk.
those are the little things that you don't pay attention, right? That you don't know what you have until it's gone,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely. When you start limiting yourself, there's a limitation in one of the activities that you do.
Yes.
You can see how that
Even
could be
if it's just a
detrimental.
thumb, you don't know
It
how
could be the thumb.
important the thumb it is until it's gone and stuff like that. I mean, let me ask you, why did you select this occupation? Like, what attracted you? Just for the young
Yes,
audience
absolutely.
too.
When I was young, I wanted to be a dentist first, but then I had an internship with dentist's office and just didn't see myself working in a small space like the mouth, and
Okay.
I just was not there. But later on, I I wanted to be a physical therapist,
Mhm.
and then I also became volunteering a physical therapist when I was in school, and that caught my attention to some degree, but I wasn't
It's
sold.
not the same chiropractor and physical
It's very similar,
therapist.
and you can combine them, both of them, and you can see
Yes.
fantastic results.
Yes.
But
Yes.
now chiropractors can do physical therapy. I do physical therapy also in my office,
Okay.
but most of the time, physical therapists can't do the manipulation that the chiropractor does. It's a different entity.
So, so chiropractors get into more of the body, I will say, and then physical therapy is more like training you to for
Uh,
your life, everyday life,
Physical
or what?
therapies, for example, is more rehab, for example, through
Oh yeah,
exercises.
rehab
And there's
exercise.
different areas in physical therapy. It could be, respiratory physical therapy. It
Mhm.
could be due to injuries too, for example, through exercises. So you work injuries through the exercises and restore them, strengthen them. Now,
Mhm.
there's a limit for treatment, for example, for physical therapy, and oftentimes, one of the biggest mistakes that I often see in my office is that, for example, if a patient performs a line of duty that all day, 8 hours, 10 hours a day, one specific task, and he goes to the doctor, the patient goes to the doctor, and the doctor sends him to a physical therapy, and then the physical therapy tells, well, we need to strengthen that area.
Mhm.
Well, it's not, because I don't believe that is the case, because if the patient is doing that activity for 8 hours, 10 hours, it's not a matter of weakness, it's a matter of overuse.
Oh, okay, that's it.
So it's not so much that by doing some exercises you're going to strengthen it. It's quite the opposite.
Okay, so let me go back. You did the internship as a dentist. You say, nope, I can't just do this. Then you did something with
Physical
physical
therapy.
therapist,
I
and then
volunteer with physical therapist, and I said there might be something else. Then I found out about chiropractic, and I fell in love with it. And mostly is the fact that chiropractic, you spend more time with the patient. You get to know the patient. Now, not only that, you touch the patient.
mhm,
There's something involved with touching. There's a human aspect to that. When little kids get injured, for example, and they run to their mom and dad, what's the
mhm,
first thing? Mom, I fell down and I hurt my head, for example. What
mhm.
does mom and dad do? They usually rub that area.
Yeah, with
So there's something with this
bamboo.
human touch that that communicates there, and I think it's very special that we can address that and help the patient instantly. And that's one of the things that I really love about chiropractic is the ability to help someone instantly. It doesn't matter where you go.
Mhm.
Sometimes I go to travel to Mexico, and people find out that I'm a chiropractor. Right there and there, I can also address some of their complaints and see
You don't have to
how
carry an
I don't have
equipment
to
with
carry an
you.
equipment with me.
By looking at someone, can you tell them if they're in pain?
There's a lot of times. Just this past weekend, we were in the gym, and one of
Mhm.
the participants there in the gym was limping after doing some exercises, and I approached the patient. I told her, this muscle is acting up on you, and probably you're now hurting in your low back. And she kept rubbing her low back, and she says, yes, I don't know what happened. And I said, it's going to be this area and this area.
You can't help it, and you can't just
I-
look
I-
at someone and just
yes,
look the other.
you can. You have so there's something there that we can help you. Let's see
You
if we
can
can do
help.
it.
That's amazing that you can just only use your hand. But you prescribe anything like creams or something or no?
We have an analgesic creams that,
Mhm.
for example, Biofreeze or something like that. Any type of analgesic patient can use. We have some at the office as well. But as far as prescription medication, the philosophy behind chiropractic is that
Mhm.
the body has its own way of healing. So if you allow that to time to heal, the body itself will heal, given the right conditions.
Okay. If you are in the audience and you're watching us live, make sure that you can put a comment. Do we have any comments? Or no? If you have any questions, you want to put it on the screen. We can start answering some questions live. Also, what else? Is there something that you want to share to us that with the line of experience. How long you been doing this chiropractor?
I've been doing chiropractic for 16 years. I'm going on my 17th year now.
17?
17.
Okay, so you started when you were a baby then.
17.
17.
17.
And it's one thing that you would like to send a message to them that said, for instance, if you don't know how to manipulate, just don't do it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Well, sometimes we get patients that have gone to the community, the sobadores or the bonseros that you find, and some of them get injured in the process too.
Yes.
Anybody can move a bone, I think so, but having the right training is very important, and knowing when not to move a bone is also
even
extremely
when you do a
big.
massage, you can injure someone or no?
Not so much. You can still injure them. Yes.
Okay.
There's injuries that you can also perform. But the biggest warning I give to my patients is that make sure you go to someone that is qualified, someone that
Yeah.
is trained in a specific area. Don't expose your body to someone that doesn't know what they're doing simply because, around the community someone has recommended you.
Okay. What do you want to share, like another, like a testimony that you say, man, I was so proud I was able to help this person?
Little kids, sometimes kids come in this particular case, there was we received a call that from a young boy, maybe 8 years old, 9 years old, if I remember, and they were here at the zoo. And while at the zoo, he was running and something happened to his hip. He pulled a hip muscle, and they were driving a mobile home.
Okay.
So they call me and they say, I saw you're online, and would like to have my son be seen by you. So sure enough, we saw the son, young kid, 8 years old,
Okay.
or 10
Wow,
years old,
that's
somewhere
a
around
little-
there. And he was very shy, but it looked like he had a complications before in other areas of his health. Like his health
Okay.
was being affected in other areas as well. So he was a little shy. After we worked on him, on his hip, he extended his hand and shakes my hand, and he looks at me and he says, "Thank you."
Oh.
So sometimes there are not enough words for people to tell you, but sometimes their eyes, a smile, will say everything. And I remember he walked out of the office and he was running. He says, "I feel much better." So
heck yeah.
moments like that, they touch your heart. I mean, you like to see people get better. Of course, that is our goal.
And then you're glad you're able to,
Yes.
help them with that.
Absolutely.
How long does it take to become a chiropractor? What's the process for
To chiropractic school, for example, you have to go through your 4 years of undergraduate, and then you have to go apply to chiropractic school. And that is usually a 5-year program, but it's condensed down with no breaks in between, 3.5. So
Okay.
no breaks, but it's an intense program. It's a very good, and people that have been experienced chiropractor, there's a lot of people that have experienced chiropractic. Young kids too, if they, I would say that being a chiropractor is a very rewarding profession, and I encourage them to be chiropractors if they
be
can.
a chiropractor. And that is considered alternative medicine?
Yes, it's considered an alternative medicine because we don't prescribe medication.
Okay.
We do fall under a different umbrella. So yes, it's alternative to conventional medicine.
Okay. I wonder if people can hear us because they say that the volume is low. So the volume is better now? Okay. We have some questions from the audience.
Yes.
You ready? Okay, so I'll say it in Spanish and then I'll say it in English. Dice Lau, acabo de tener un bebé y tengo mucho dolor en la espalda. ¿Se puede arreglar yendo al quiropráctico? So the question is that I just had a baby and I'm in a lot of pain, back pain. Can you fix that by just going to a chiropractor?
Absolutely. We see a lot of patients or women that come into our office. Some of them have postpartum pain.
Okay.
Sometimes the partner or during the delivery, it could be traumatic. Sometimes they could just, it could be just a traumatic, long process. There's muscles that are going to be strained. They're left with postpartum pain. Yes, we address it all the time. Absolutely, we can help them.
How many times do they have to go?
It just depends. It's going to be on an individual basis. Sometimes one session will do it. Sometimes needs 1 or 2 more. It just depends on what is it that the patient is having.
When someone particularly like that, like they just say that they just can't just go to the chiropractor that often just because they have a baby and the commune. Is there something that you recommend for them to do at home? Or no?
When patients gets injured and they're hurting, oftentimes is you can put ice. Some people take some over-the-counter medication.
Okay.
Some people apply ice too. You can also apply ice
Okay.
to the area, and that brings down the inflammation.
Okay. Another question from Yolanda Rodríguez. Hola Yolanda, dice en español, me duele la rodilla y se me traba para caminar y por unos minutos se me paraliza. ¿Qué me recomienda? ¿Puedo ir con un quiropráctico o qué? So the question is from Yolanda Rodríguez. My knee hurts and sometimes it's hard to walk for a minute, and then what would you recommend? Should I go to a chiropractor? So this is a knee problem.
Yeah, when it comes to the knees, most of the time it could be just a tendon. It just
Okay.
depends. It could be where the pain is. But if your knee is locking, it sounds like it's locking. It also could be just the quadricep tendon, and it's created a friction in the patella, meaning that yes, we can address it. It could be something, or it could be muscles from the back of your knee. So it would have to be evaluated and find out whether it is something that is locking because it's something inside of the joint, which a meniscus could be involved, or is something more muscular, more of the functional. So yes, chiropractors can address that as well.
I'm assuming all of the appointments have to be in person. They can't just do it virtually.
All the appointments have to be. Unfortunately, yes, chiropractors. We could only treat them
It's not like over
in
them,
person.
by video, by Zoom, and say, well, let me see. Turn around. Okay. Another question from Roselyn García. Hola, Roselyn. Dice, ¿me tiene que doler algo para ir al quiropráctico?
No.
Do I have to be in pain to go to a chiropractor?
And
That's a very good question.
That's a very good question, and I think most important is that maintenance, prevention, injury
Yes.
prevention.
So if I'm not in pain, I should go to a chiropractor?
Not necessarily. Even when your lifestyle, do you wait for your body to become sick, or do you try to address it before that as a
I wait
preventive?
until I'm sick.
It's the same thing. A lot of times people wait to see something or see a chiropractor only when they hurt. And I think that stress is one of those areas that oftentimes builds in slowly but surely. Stress too. Stress has a very, very, there's a correlation between stress and also some of the conditions the patients are facing. So to answer the question is, you don't have to go to the chiropractor when you are in pain only. I get patients here that come to the office simply because they want an adjustment. I feel good, I don't have any pain, but I want you to check my spine, see how I'm moving, and address it. Fine, we'll address
what
it.
is an adjustment? Like if I go to your office and say I just want an adjustment, how do you what is that?
We'll evaluate the spine and find out how your vertebrae are moving, and also if there's any pain as we palpate them. If there is pain, there's pressure in that specific area, maybe there's a fixation in that specific area. So we try to release that with a manipulation. That's in the adjustment, and then you'll hear a pop sound, almost like when you pop your knuckles. And instantly the patient will notice that there's some movement in your spine. And a lot of times that alleviates a lot of the complaint that the patient's having.
Well, if that's the case, we all need an alignment, right? Like we all need to be adjusted, even when we're born, right?
Yes.
If have you had babies as a patient?
I don't treat babies. There's some chiropractors they do.
Okay.
They specifically they treat pediatrics, and the reason why is because I like to talk to the patients. Babies, they have a different communication to communicate their symptoms. I personally do not address babies, but that's not to say the chiropractor does not address.
It's just a specialized area. Yeah.
Other chiropractors they do.
What are your most common patients?
Most common patients are just a hardworking patient.
Which is, I'm a hard worker patient.
A blue collar patient.
Okay.
People that are working, strenuous jobs.
Okay.
Are
we talking about like roofing, construction?
People that work in construction, very common in my
truck
office.
drivers.
Yep. Anything with
like
construction, any line of construction, sure. We got those patients are very
But
common
even
in my
for
office.
people that us that we work in the office or like housewife, that's hard work too.
Yes.
Because we're like on the floor, washing, in the stress with the kids and husband and everything, So
Absolutely. I think your body needs a balance of a little bit of everything. And if you are at home, for example, your body also needs some some other ways of distressing. Chiropractic is fantastic. Oftentimes we hear that word a lot.
But it's
I'm
not
on
a
lot
massage.
of stress. It's not a massage.
It's not a massage. What's the difference between a massage and a
Well,
chiropractor? Then?
a massage is supposed to be nice and relaxing. Sometimes they're effleurage massage. You
And
got
then the
candles. You
chiropractor is
got that.
painful. Is
No,
that what it is?
and the chiropractic is more therapeutic. So a little bit of both.
Okay, okay, okay.
So it's different. See,
You don't put like little aroma, like
no
scents,
aromatherapy, no candles, not
nothing.
in our office. It's more functional.
Okay,
This
it's
is more functional.
That's why you want the patient to take a shower so they smell something in there. Okay, well that's good. No, all those things are important because well, I know from my family we like alternative medicine.
Yes.
Before we try, if we get injured, we try to put some ice or take a. Sometimes just don't play with it.
Yes.
Just put
Yes.
some ice and let it relax.
Yes.
And let's see what happens. But then again, if a pain is for like, when do I need to start worrying? If I injure something and now the pain has been more like in a week, more than a week,
Yes.
then I should start worrying, or when do I worry?
Yes. Once the pain starts, you're noticing that it's not changing and it's getting worse. So
When
first
do I
sign
start
will be
worrying? Then like after 1 week,
yeah.
after 4
After a
days,
couple of days, you start saying, well, the pain has not gone away. It's there. Okay, something to
Yes.
be concerned with. Should I wait? That's when you start. I would say you start looking into it already.
Okay.
If it's been a week, I think you're a little bit too late now. I think
Mhm.
you should have started earlier. So it just depends on the level. Now, the pain could be mild, starts off mild.
Mhm.
And as time goes by, the pain could intensify. So that's another sign that you have to say, okay, this is getting a little serious. Let me go ahead and have it checked out.
I remember I have a brother, and he said one time one of my kids like just jump on him, and then he could walk, but he was walking like
Yes.
this, and he was just afraid to lift, and he was just walking like an old man. And I
Yes.
said, okay, that happened for like a week.
Yes.
I said that's not normal, and he was just afraid to. He was very tense, I will
Yes.
say. And then I was even afraid. I don't want to try to crack anything because it will be worse.
Yeah.
But there's some people that say no, just sit on me until I don't care if it's gonna be painful. Just if something got dislocated. What do you recommend situations like that?
Oh, well, the most important thing is it depends on what has happened, and that's the mechanism of injury. When in
Okay.
this particular case, when a child jumps in on someone, for example, if someone jumps on you and you're not prepared,
Yes, you're not prepared.
your
at all.
body there's no protection there. It's completely
So
off
you're
guard.
not guard.
You're not
Yeah.
guarded. So
Mhm.
you're gonna introduce, or you have stronger chances of causing some injury versus someone that is expecting that.
Yeah. Like
If
a
you are
football
ready
player,
for it, yeah, a football
something.
player, they know that's gonna be expected. Your body is ready. Your
Mhm.
mind is ready.
Yes.
So even the muscles, the intrinsic muscles in your body, they're ready to,
Mhm.
uh,
And that brings me to the other question that we have from the audience. They were saying that when sorry, they were joking around, but they were saying, well, if I want to lift something heavy, what to do so I don't injure myself. So what would you recommend
Yes.
to avoid injuries? I would
Yes.
say as a form of prevention, right?
yes, lifting is something that you want to do also with your hips and your glutes and your pelvic,
Mhm.
as opposed to your low back. And a lot of times patients don't know the difference. And what they do is they lift with their back.
Yes.
The back is fragile. The strongest part of your body is your pelvis.
Is it different with women and men, or is the same?
It's the same. Now,
the
women
same?
tend to be more flexible than men.
Really?
Yes, they have more flexibility. Most of my patients, males, are stiff as a board, whereas women are more flexible. They have a
Okay.
tendency to be a little bit more flexible than
nature,
men by
yeah.
nature. Yes.
Okay. So if I want to lift something, what I should not do to injure my back?
Number one is that do not lift something too far away from your center of body of your body, center of gravity. That means hold it close to your body.
Okay, some closer to the body.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be a bad example not to do?
A bad example would be when you're reaching too far out to lift something that's too far from your body.
Did you had a client that happened?
That happens, and that's very sometimes that is common
Mhm.
in when your parents are putting their children inside the vehicle
Mhm.
in the car seat,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they have
yeah.
to pick up the child and they have to reach out.
So what do you do then?
That's you got greater chances of straining your back in that particular
So how do
area.
you carry the baby? You carry the baby like this, and then You can
you
put it
have to
like
be
that.
you have to be careful. You have to be climb up a little bit more. It just
You can
depends on
just
the car,
throw the
and
child
you
in
can't
there.
throw the child.
Oh my God, that is a lot of work. Okay. Well, thank you. I think
Absolutely. Thank you
we
so much for having me.
do you guys have any questions for him? No? No? Does the audience has any questions? Do you want to share anything?
Well, I do want to thank you guys for giving me this opportunity to be here. I think this is a great opportunity to talk to people, especially the ones that they don't know anything about chiropractic. I think this is a great way to have some questions answered if any doubts people have. But my biggest advice or recommendation to those that are hurting is that visit a chiropractor, and you'll be very appreciative of the line of work that they do.
We're gonna put you information about your location. Also, you speak Spanish.
Yes.
You speak Spanish, and you are also culture. Well, you understand the culture of immigrants, I will say,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So that's helpful, uh, because sometimes we don't know how to explain things very well with words. I don't know if you noticed that with that.
That is common in our office. Our patients, they use lingo. Sometimes they use various different cultural
Yes.
beliefs, words
Yes, it
or
was like, no, I
traditions.
can't do. Oh, they will try to explain to you what to do. Have you had that?
Yes,
Like, you can't do this because my grandma said you can't do this.
yes,
Oh,
and even so, even I speak Spanish too, but cultures sometimes change a little bit. For example, I'm original from Mexico,
okay.
but I get patients from Central America
Or South America.
or South America,
Uh-huh.
and their culture might be, even though we speak same Spanish, we speak
Uh-huh.
Spanish, they might be a little bit different. So I have to get
It's like,
familiarized
wait a
with
minute, what are you
what
talking
is it that you're
about?
telling me, because I might know something from with a different name, but we
Uh-huh.
could be talking about something that same thing, but two different names. So we have to,
Did you have something? Like, can you give me an example? Like, you
Uh,
thought it was something and it was something else?
Well, for example, when people say slangs, people have slangs for when they have a nodule or something, or they, instead of una bola, they'll say, instead of ball, they'll say, una chibola.
Oh, okay,
You
chibola. And
you
a
like,
bola.
what is it? Una chiva y una bola. What is it? So you
Uh-huh.
try to find out what is it they mean. But there's a cultural difference, but it's important, and I think, to understand what is it that the patient is
So you
communicating.
have a little bit of background of anthropology and sociology.
You gotta have a little bit of
You gotta
everything.
have a little bit of everything. Yeah. She has a question.
Well,
Oh yeah. Also, she had a baby, and they injected an epidural, right? So after the epidural, they told you, well, it will be a good idea to go to a chiropractor. What are your thoughts on
well,
that?
the epidural. If you have during pregnancy, oftentimes females, they get their epidural shot,
Yeah.
right? And
That
what is
painful
afterwards, even postpartum, what is it that a lot of my patients, they associate back pain with the epidural.
Yes.
Now, science says, the medical society says, that there's no correlation between epidural shot and postpartum pain.
I don't believe in that.
However, if I were to take the complaints of all my patients, female patients that come in, most of them, they identify and they say, since the epidural shot, I've been having this pain.
Is
So-
that so? But science says no. There's
Science,
no
they say there's no connection. I like to think that there's something that maybe we are missing. I think there could be a correlation sometimes.
There's no
and-
way someone can get that on the spine and say there's no connection on that.
Yes.
And especially, I mean, for those who had an epidural, it is a serious. What is it called? Is anesthesia? Is that what it is?
It's
But
it's a pain.
where it goes, right? Like, if you have to be very, very careful
Yes.
how you inject that. And then I noticed from my personal experience, when it in the cold, during
Yes.
the cold weather, there's more pain. Have you noticed that with you?
Yes.
So
So
what
there's
do you,
the relation.
recommend for
So in that
us?
particular case, a patient comes in with those symptoms, we address the areas there. Could there be a correlation? Well, like I said, science says no, but I see it all the time
Yeah.
in my patients. So I would say there has to be something,
They have to-
especially if in the winter time, when the cold drops. your body tends to be a little bit more constructed to, or your muscles and your spine. Now, when you perform an epidural shot, you're perforating, into the spine.
Yeah.
Now, you don't know what you're going to be touching around. Maybe the soft tissue, as careful as you try to be.
Oh, they make you sign a waiver.
Yes.
So
that
there's
tells
risk.
You
there's
a
risk
involved as well. Yeah. But I think
risk.
there could be, even though science says there's no correlation, I would say there's a lot of females that do think that there's a correlation.
Well,
and see
we
it all the
already
time.
done it, so we can undo it.
Yes.
So what do you recommend for us to when we have, especially now during the winter? And I think because many of us breastfeeded, so that's also, and then the pregnancy, the pregnancy, it's heavy babies. Thank your mothers for the, pay the chiropractor, buy a gift card for your mothers to go to a chiropractor, okay? Or any woman that have babies, okay? Listen, that's what they want for Valentine's Day. But
definitely.
What other things? For instance, I always get a lot of back pain, lower back pain. I had 3 children, and then I spent a lot of time driving and sitting. So when I get home, what would you recommend me to do? Like, is it bad to put, if I feel hot, is it bad to put something cold? Or like heat, or what do you recommend?
No, well, it all depends. For example, if you're starting to have some back pain, then one of the things that you will notice is that what is it that you do mostly at work? For example, if you're sitting down at work most of the hours and you go home and you got some back pain, don't sit. Okay, get yourself on the treadmill if you need to. Walk, run, jog, whatever, something different.
So
don't do the same activity. Because you are already loaded. I mean, the structures in your spine are loaded with a particular activity. Now do something opposite. Or let's say, for example, you work in construction. You constantly lift things up, lift and lift. And then you go to the gym and say, start lifting all those, bench pressing. Is it recommended to lift the whole day and then go to the gym and lift some more? I would say no. Get yourself some cardio. Do something different. You're not running at work. So if you go to the gym.
So if I sit all the time.
And you go home
when
and
I
sit.
go home and sit, then that's
the same thing. You continue in the same activity. Change it.
Change it. Okay.
Change it. Change your activity.
Okay. Any other questions? We only have 2 minutes. Thank you for the audience, and thank you for sharing all this information. The consultation with you, is there a fee when people come make an appointment with you? Is it free or like?
Oh no, there's a fee involved.
There's a fee?
The first session involves a fee. It's not a free consultation, but at the same time we discuss a lot of things and options that we can address as well with the patient.
Okay. Well, thank you. Make sure that you share this information with all your friends and family. And we want to thank the sponsors. What orders do we have? Well, anyways, it's not here. But anyways, we have Linkua Academy, Banwuri Bokwe, Garcias and Associates. And am I forgetting any? And what is it? En Revive Salón, of course, Revive Salón. Ahí en Revive Salón estaban todos preguntando. Everybody were asking. It's like, oh my God, we want to ask questions about the chiropractor. Like, what are the dangerous positions and stuff like that? And I said, well, maybe you should have a private consultation with him about that. I'm sure you get a lot of that too. Well, thank you so much. And
my pleasure.
We'll see. We're definitely going to come and stop by and get some advice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.